Time for some fresh OC. I don't even give a damn if anyone believes me, I just wanna get it off my chest. Live in boonies. Basically forest, gerrymandered by houses and farms that go in and out of repair. There are several other houses right by mine, but I talk to the neighbors exactly none. A fact I'm glad for because the community looks like some straight up Silent Hill locations sometimes. There's like a weekly spoopy happening, to the point where I got so bored with it I just shrug it off as the status quo. Several weeks back, this changed. The time is 10 AM, and I'm savoring being a lazy bastard for not having to go into work that day, drifting in and out of sleep. Suddenly ear-splitting roar. All of my what? Check laptop, I do comedy YouTube playlists to help me get to sleep, just music tends to put me on edge for whatever reason, to see if it's an ad. No ad playing, halfway through 2-hour video. Nothing in Darkseid 2 makes the sound I just heard. Even if it had been, something that loud would have blown out my laptop's rather shitty speakers. Slightly confused, turn off pending alarm and drift in and out of consciousness with laptop on bed so I can roll over and check if I hear it again. Greater than 2 hours later. Halfway conscious. Screeing bitches, forgot about me. The roar both sounded louder and closer. As well as clearer. It sounded like the bastard child of a bear roar and that foghorn cry Godzilla makes. Tactically what? Sounded like it came from behind house. Decide I'm not sleeping until I find out what made that noise. Grab lightly ruined oaken hiking staff. Grab fireplace poker. Bathe both in ash as whatever the hell made that noise was clearly not of this earth anyways. Trek in a woods. Check glove compass to double check I haven't been turned around like I had before in the same woods. Glove compass is going beyond nuts, spinning like a top, occasionally pointing towards direction of clearing I've visited before with friends. I am a clearly sane, rational, and level-headed individual, so obviously I go towards the noise. As I get closer, hear thrashing in the clearing. As well as a cow. There's a dairy farm next to my house, but I don't recall Farmer Dan breeding goddamn mutants. Start to see stuff that's clearly off. Large movements through the gaps in the tree line. Low rumbling sound. Unnatural heat, suddenly very glad I hadn't changed out of my sleep shorts. Occasional burn mark on the ground. Yes, I am that complete and utter imbecile in the horror movie that moves towards the live hellmouth apparently. Eventually get to clearing to see what the ruckus is about. Peek out from behind tree. It's a fuck-mothering dragon. Or at least that's what I'd assume. Think less Tolkien, more Lovecraft. It had pale gray skin that looked like boiled konjac, to the point where it appeared actively wet. It was hexapedal, balanced on 6 squat legs that looked like an elephant's more than anything. There were a pair of massive wings on its back that looked like they could actually lift the monstrosity off the ground, even folded they seemed beyond massive. Its tail looked like it had been stumped, not in the way that it had cut off, but there was some sort of bulbous mass where the tail was supposed to continue. And then there was its head and neck. It was like some kind of jacked up xenomorph. Recesses where its eyes obviously should have been, but they seemed to have skin over them. Yellowed teeth sticking out its closed maw on both sides, painted red with the gore of the cow it had just finished eating. And that's when my brain got a chance to catch up from holy hell a dragon and got a chance to look at the rest of the clearing. It was totally scorched. Like, basically everything was blackened. Hear snapping noise in woods roughly to the left of me. Dragon looks up. Its head is pointed in a decidedly uncomfortable at me direction. Hide behind tree. What smells like ozone? Suddenly rushing sound, like a dam burst. About to look from behind tree but my judgment gets the best of me. Good thing too. Because I suddenly find myself a yard from a large stream of aggressive something. To this day I can't figure out what it was exactly. Going out of Greentext here for a second, it didn't seem to be exactly fire or a flammable substance, The movement was too jerky, but it didn't spark or crackle like electricity, and I still have the right half of my body, so I'm guessing it wasn't plasma. But it was sure as hell burning anything it touched. A spark got kicked up and burnt a sizable hole in my shirt. Begin tactically praying in Old Norse once the fire dies down. Figure I'm not escaping, so I may as well go out fighting. Jump out from behind tree ready to bonsai charge a dragon. Hear rustling from same spot as before. Boom. Same roar as before, followed by some decidedly unpleasant shrieking. Large gaping hole opened in eye recess. Hear shouting. Get the hell away from my cows, you goddamn bastard. Holy hell, it's Farmer Dan. Not looking at him, focusing on big dragon. It unfurls its wings and starts flapping, and takes to the sky with surprising expediency for something that had a torso the size of an RV. And it certainly felt like a large aircraft had just taken off. I was nearly bowled over from the force of the wind. It circles in the air once before heading out towards the lake. Stand there for a moment just plain vanilla dumbfounded. More movement. Brandish fireplace poker. Farmer Dan is now about 10 feet from me. The gun in his hands looked like an old-style break action, but the barrels were ridiculously large in diameter. My brain finally processes the fact that I'm being asked a question. Anon, what in God's name are you doing out here? Try my hardest to point out this is not the most important question to be asked in this situation. Finally managed to coax an answer out of him. Apparently, several of his longhorns went missing from the pasture, and he caught sight of it moving to that clearing after one more had disappeared. Hunter friends had apparently reported some weird goings on in his backwoods to him. Said they'd found some freaky stuff and some biggest nest. Only one dead cow in this clearing, however, and no nest to be seen. My brain refused to examine the possible meaning of those facts at the time. Ask him about the gun. Says he uses it to hunt whatever goes after his cows. The inflection implied this was not the first supernatural entity he'd shot at using this shotgun. Farmer Dan stops me before I get back on the path. Don't tell nobody about this, Anon. No use causing a fuss over some fairy tale nonsense. I am not about to disagree with a man holding what I can only assume is a 2 or less gauge. Walk back home and fall asleep. Wake up later that day, assuming it was all some sort of jacked up dream. Look down and notice hole in shirt was legitimately there. Brain reeling for not dragon related answers. Half-heartedly settle on this somehow being the shirt I'd burned slightly during a bonfire several years beforehand. Forced to confront reality when I notice said shirt lying on the floor. Decide then and there I'm moving to the largest city I can get to so I don't have to deal with this bullshit anymore. There was a huge rainstorm the next day, so a lot of the char was washed out, but sure enough, when I went back to that clearing several days later it was filled with morel mushrooms, so it had to have been scorched at some point. I don't know what the fuck I saw, and I don't know if /k/ would have any better idea of what it was, but if I ever know that thing's in the area again, I'm finding as many /k/ Amandos as possible, and leading realities, probably, first dragon slaying raid.
Just under 5 years later, Anon stumbles across a thread on /x/ that someone posted his story on.
Someone actually saved this story? I am forced to regale you with the fact that not only have I not moved, but I have more stories if /x/ would be interested.
But I have more stories if /x/ would be interested. Yes please, that dragon really took my attention. What else have you seen, Anon?
That story gets posted quite a bit.
So, I'ma give you guys a bit of a preamble, because there's a little bit I forgot to mention in the first story. 1. Looking back at the date, the incident had happened a few months previously. I've been on and off 4chan other than /tg/ and rarely /k/, but that never got reposted in the Greentext threads, so I never felt the need to clarify. 1.1, that particular dragon is mfucking dead. Found its corpse in a woods with a 2-foot hole bored through its chest. I have ideas as to what made that hole, but no definite answer. 1.2, apparently morels aren't really supposed to grow here, but strange shit that shouldn't grows in the area all the time. 2, my dumb ass continues to live in Wisconsin, and that's as specific as I'm going to get so I don't get doxxed. The lake mentioned earlier was Lake Michigan, and it's where about 50% of the spooky things I see disappears into. 3, before anyone goes pics or it didn't happen, you'll be getting an explanation for exactly why in green text form later. TLDR version is that whenever I see peculiar shit, it seems to be accompanied by tomfoolery. 4, while I haven't had the common sense to move family in the area, I have at least have common sense to have gotten into fighting shape and bought heavier arms than a fireplace poker. With that being said, you guys want spooky, weird, slayin', or some of the few times the madness of the Wisconsin boonies actually let me have a break.
Go and find weird stuff. Take photos and show us. And find the farmer and ask him question as to what the hell it was.
Well, to start out, I've tried. He really doesn't like talking about anything screwed up around here. The man literally just wants to raise cattle, which makes sense because it's basically the only reason this hell state is populated in the first place. He also has a proclivity for carrying around a boomstick, so I'm not exactly going to press him. Otherwise, I may as well talk about the time I actually tried to take a picture. This was around summer of 16, weird phenomena was off the charts. Normally, I'll get about one jacked up thing happening seasonally, but there had been about 3 different happenings that month, so I grabbed my friend's DSLR in case shiz went down. I usually had it in a case in my backpack along with telephoto and a revolver in case shiz went from 0 to throw down and I didn't have anything bigger. And with the frequency of happenings, I wasn't going too far out in unless I had my tax stamp bro with me and some serious equipment on call. But it's about 2 miles of county road between my house and basically anything, so there was still a non-zero chance of things getting weird. And of course one day it had to. Walking to town to re-up at gas station. Usual loadout in backpack. Hear rustling in the bushes. Glance over because there's occasionally interesting stuff that isn't really green text worthy. This time though, fate apparently decided to throw me the kind of weird stuff I wanted. It's kinda hard to describe, but I've seen this thing a few times. To start off, it just looks oily. Like someone straight up dunked it in crude. Long, tapered torso with visible ribs. Back legs that go up like a cricket's. Front, arms. I'm not sure if they really qualify as arms or legs, but they fold in under its front, and the claws at the end go for about a foot. Head/face looks like it's some sort of flat ceramic, not oily like the rest of it, but still rather shiny. Oh, did I mention the Aston of tentacles? This thing packs for the staring role in your favorite hentai. Both behind the mask/face and directly from where one would assume the ass is, there's about 2 dozen or so tentacles. And it's about 14 feet from squid to squid. No, I don't know how the hell it eats/breathes/shits, and frankly I don't want to. But I did manage to unzip my backpack without really alerting it. Pulled out camera, to give you an idea, I'm a good 40 to 50 feet from it. I'm garbage at judging distance, so you'll have to forgive me. Vi screen won't stay on, so I sight it manually. Snap a few pics, turn the flash on for the last one just to make sure something's happening. Flash looks incredibly half-assed, like it's low on battery despite me keeping this thing charged religiously. It still notices, and gets the hell out of Dodge because it doesn't like light. Whatever, whip out phone to text friend that she's getting her camera back. Hit power button. Nothing. Hit power button again. Still nothing. Hold power button. Phone turns on. What.jpg? Once it's on, it can't find a tower. Shrug and go into town. Grab snacks at gas station. Once I'm far enough away, tactically move revolver from backpack to waist in case the thing decides it doesn't like me. Thankfully no resistance from spoops on the way back, but there was a good bit of rustling and clicking on the way home, so it was still in the area. Get back and plug the camera in. Computer does nothing. Leave it to charge for an hour. Nothing. Put batteries on charger. Wait a few hours. Put them back in and apply to computer. ITSFUCKINGNOTHING. At this point, I'm pissed off. Wait until Fran is free again and drive it over to her place. She can't make it do anything. Takes out SD card and puts it in reader. It's totally corrupted. I nearly flip my lid right then and there. 2 weeks later I get a call from her. Camera shop in Madison said it was just flat out fried like it was put in a microwave. Apologize and buy her a new camera. I'm now out 1.5 grand, and I still don't have any goddamn pictures. I'm pretty sure if I ever see this thing on a Boogaloo walk, I'm turning it into Swiss cheese to avenge my wallet. Given the spotty cell coverage in the area despite being able to physically see the tower from my roof and getting full bars about 99% of the time, I can say that monstrosities don't really like anything digital, and I don't know anyone with a dark room who wouldn't start asking questions.
Since you have seen the dragon again, I wouldn't mind a more detailed description. I'm just fascinated by a six-legged, club-tailed, almost elephant-like dragon is all. As for the stories in general, if you have something WTF type, please do tell us about it.
Anyways, you were asking about the dragon. Again, I'm terrible at distances, so this is all relative. I'm using fabric tape close to me for relative measurements. I described the skin as looking like boiled konjac in the first post because that's frankly what it looked like. Vaguely translucent and dark brownish gray, almost somewhat amphibian at first blush. When I saw the corpse, it looked like it was drying, and I could see small cracks. I think the thing actually lived in LM, though there's a few other living ponds in the area it could conceivably stay in. The torso was around the size of one of those RV camper vans and the legs were actually a hair closer in towards the center than you'd expect. They looked rather stumpy for its size, just about large enough for them to meet underneath. It didn't really have any visible shoulders, but the legs did have two joints. The dead one let me see claws on the feet, but they were irregularly spaced and inward facing. The head was the weirdest part to me. It was rather difficult for me to tell where the skull would have started. It was about the size again of the torso, but it had a rather visible crick in the angle about 2/3 rds of the way up. It flared out a bit before tapering down, and it looked like there would be eye holes in the skull, but it had the same membrane of skin over them as anywhere else. The area over the mouth slit, which I'll note went past the eyes, looked incredibly gnarled, but it didn't have visible teeth with its mouth shut. Otherwise, no openings on the face. As for the tail, it terminated at about half length, if we're going on the neck, torso and tail being the same length, and flared out into a large mass that looked halfway between a morning star and a tumor, about the size of 4 fridges stacked together. As far as what can easily assume to be the fatal blow, the flesh looked almost purplish, but that may have been due to putrefaction. Oh, I forgot to mention the wings, but there wasn't especially anything unique about them, other than being about the proper length, each one being about half and again the size of this thing tip to tail. Same membrane-like skin, rather bony, but no real protrusions.
Did the carcass get moved since? If not, you should find it and make some photos, even if it's heavily decayed. If an art friend happens to be around, this dragon creature needs a visual representation in my opinion.
Do you think you could give us a couple sketches of the dragon and cricket squid? Even if you're a poor artist, it'll help give us a better idea of just WTF these were.
I know I suck at drawing, but this should give you a good idea of both.
NGL, the pose the squickret is in WRT the post, it looks like a headless ballet dancer with Logan claws. Also, in this post you mention, I have ideas as to what made that hole, but no definite answer. May I inquire as to what you pondered on? With exception of the obvious, farmer with 12 PDR cannon, of course.
So, it's quadrupedal, and flipped it does look like a leg, but it's assumedly horizontally symmetrical. I wasn't going to waste time making them more uneven than they already are. The longest of the two is the approximate length of all of them. On that side, I'd comment if one was longer, but you couldn't pay me to recon for that thing without something automatic in a large caliber. Otherwise, I have a few guesses. There are total lunatics out here with legit anti-air weaponry, not to mention the Lake Coast Guard, so there's a chance it met its end on the business end of flak. Granted, I have no clue what AA weaponry would actually do to a large, fleshy target, but it wasn't a clean line from what I could see. Otherwise, there's spooky happenings around here that actually seems to like the fact that there are things alive other than them. A few of them can go out to range. Best guess is the forest spirits that are twice my height, and made from a combination of trees, stones, and occasionally some smidgen of rope or cloth. I've seen a few carrying around large bows, which is usually my sign to turn the hell around because they don't carry anything unless they're defending their territory. I saw the bow fired once, and it opened a fall streak hole, so I'm not sure what the hell it'd do to a solid target. It also could have been some of the more mechanical looking stuff I've seen. The most eye-looking one seemed to have something that looked like it could do that much damage, but I doubt it unless the hole was made ragged by it thrashing about. It also might have met the large mass of stuff I occasionally spot in the lake. I have no clue how big it is. I never have a solid frame of reference, meaning it fled and died there.
Forest spirits?
They're pretty much as I described. Imagine a piece of the forest just put itself together and started walking. Just rocks, trees, and occasionally a little bit of cloth hanging out of somewhere.
Drawing of the dragon. You know, this thing looks like a legit animal from another habitable world. Hexapedal, capable of flight, etc. Only question is, how did it get here? Though I gotta admit, kinda reminds me of a spore creature.
You know, this thing looks like a legit animal from another habitable world. Hexapedal. It has to be in that case. DNA strands for hexapedal reptiles do not exist in any currently known example, even extrapolated from whatever scientists have been able to recover of early dinosaur DNA. How did it get here? You go far enough into deep wilderness and you'll find that certain areas have very thin boundaries. So basically, there are some parts on our planets, like fuck off far from civilization in the US, that has these thin veil areas, from which animals from different planets or parallel dimensions can just pass through. Okay, this actually explains a lot of the cryptid shit in other sightings. I recall a couple stories of an evil, primate-looking entity, which can pass through the veil intentionally and likes to trap/kill people, like tourists. Woo, this makes me glad I'm not from the US.
I recall a couple stories of an evil, primate-looking entity, which can pass through the veil intentionally and likes to trap/kill people, like tourists. This bastard is the equivalent of a poacher/filthy rich big game hunter going to Africa to hunt animals. Think along the lines of the scumbag that hunted Cecil or the one that shot Wolf Melon for shiggles. If I recall correctly, there is a Greentext floating around where April ran into a party of /K/Amandos, which subsequently turned its normal method of popping a hole through the ether and waiting for someone to walk through into the first, as yet known, interdimensional hunting expedition, albeit with semi-significant Kia and a staggered retreat back through the rift before it closed, after the /K/Amandos drew more aggro on themselves than they could deal with.